Another year began at BHS. Buses rolled in early Wednesday morning. There was an assembly in the gym where the new teachers were introduced. They are Mr. Anderson, Miss Cassidy, Coach Schneider, Mr. Hunt, as well as Miss Bradley is retiring.
Baseball and softball practice started August 6, 2007. The teams have been working very hard to get their practices in order to play their first game. The softball and baseball team played tonight against Linn County. The softball team was scheduled to start the season last Tuesday, but the game was rained out. The band has been practicing very hard for the upcoming parade season. They have been marching around town in the mornings when the weather is good. There's approximately 20 kids at band this year. The band plays on Saturday, October 6th at Culver Stockton Band Day in Canton at 9:30 a.m. Tuesday, October 9th at the Mark Twain Marching Festival in Hannibal at 3 p.m. Saturday, October 20th for Mizzou Homecoming Parade at Columbia. And on Saturday, October 27th for Truman Homecoming Parade at 9 a.m. in Kirksville.
The start of school brought a new addition to BHS. This new addition is the new security cameras. They are placed over various places in the school. Mr. McHenry showed us some of the capabilities of the new cameras without revealing all of the classified information, such as locations of certain cameras.
Softball was supposed to begin for Brashear August 20th, but rain postponed games with Scotland County and Linn County and canceled the Atlanta tournament. Play finally got underway August 27th with a rescheduled contest with Scotland County. Scotland County plated a run in the first, but Brashear answered with a run of their own on a leadoff single by Jesse Hill and an RBI single by Christina Scudder. The game remained 1-1 until the fourth inning when a string of Brashear miscues allowed Scotland County to score 6 runs. Brashear never threatened after that point, but did pick up another run in the sixth after Abby McKim walked and was driven in by a Sidney Slavin sacrifice. Jesse Hill, Haley Kelsey, and Carmen Woods each had hits, and Christina Scudder had a pair of hits for Brashear. Scudder pitched and took the loss, striking out 7 and giving up 6 hits. In the JV game, Scotland County took an early 2-0 lead. Brashear battled back to take a 4-2 lead before falling 17-5 to Scotland County. Abby McKim and Carmen Woods each had hits for Brashear. Emily Lodwig pitched and took the loss.
This Tuesday, there was a blood drive at the Keller Building. Many NHS members, along with Nurse Sherry, helped and gave blood in order to receive service hours. It was a big success and earned 18 units of blood, and 27 people gave. This summer, janitor George Moots and student helpers Cale Watson and Jacob Shipman laid the new sidewalk from the elementary to the playground, and also helped to repair some of the sidewalk on the east side of the school. FBLA members also joined in the project, planting many bushes along the sidewalk.
The Brown Building was painted this summer as part of Jay Scudder's Eagle Scout project. Jay was helped by members of Scout Troop 404. The Brown Building is being used as a weight room for PE classes. The old storage building that sat beside the Brown Building has been moved by George down to the ball field.
Thursday night, Brashear hosted Macon County for a pair of conference wins. The 3 runs the Lady Tigers scored in the first inning were all the offense they needed, but they tacked on another 12 to shorten the 16-0 game to only 4 innings. Abby McKim and Haley Kelsey both had hits, Stephanie Elsie had a pair of hits, and Christina Scudder went 3 for 3 on the night. Scudder threw a no-hit shutout, striking out 7 and only missing a perfect game by a pair of walks. In the baseball game, Brashear got on the scoreboard with a run in the first. Macon County answered in the top of the second on a 3-run homer by Rao. Macon County's only other run came on a Bailey homer in the third. Meanwhile, Brashear scored 7 in the bottom of the second to take a lead for good, finishing the game in 5 innings with an 18-4 victory. Matt Thomas, Jacob Shipman, and Michael McKim each had homers for the Tigers. Jacob Shipman got the win, fanning 10 while scattering 5 hits. On Friday, the baseball and softball teams traveled to Lynn County for a pair of conference games. The Brashear Lady Tigers batted first to start the game and quickly put up a pair of runs on a Jessie Hill walk, a Carmen Woods double, and a Christina Scudder triple. Lynn County quickly answered in the bottom of the first with 3 runs of their own. It was starting to look like it might be a high-scoring game when Brashear tied the game at 3-all in the top of the second, and Lynn County answered in their half of the inning with 2 more runs. From that point on, Brashear's pitching and defense tightened their belts and went to work, allowing no hits and only 1 more batter than the minimum to reach the plate for the last 5 innings. In the meantime, Brashear kept adding runs every inning except the 6th to seal the 8-5 win. Jessie Hill, Emily Lodwig, and Abby McKim each singled. Carmen Woods and Sydney Slavin hit doubles, and Haley Kelsey had a pair of singles. Christina Scudder had a triple and 2 doubles. Scudder picked up the win on the mound. The baseball game was decided in the first inning when Brashear scored 10 runs on the way to a 16-4 win. Matt Thomas went to work on the mound for Brashear, holding the Mustangs scoreless in 3 of the first 4 innings and fanning 8. The exception was the third when Lynn County rallied for 4 runs. Cale Watson came on in the 5th to close out the game. The highlight of Brashear's first inning outburst was a home run by Ryan Ferdig, who also had a single on the night. Cody Hayden had 3 singles, Jacob Shipman and Michael McKim had triples, and Matt Thomas, Justin Hazen, and Cody Snelling each had a pair of singles. On Tuesday night, Novinger came to Brashear for a pair of conference games. The early innings of the girls' game went quickly until a pair of singles and a pair of errors plated a run for Novinger in the third. Brashear answered in the bottom of the fourth with a 5-run outburst. Abby McKim drew a leadoff walk, Sydney Slavin was hit by a pitch, and Emily Lodwig singled to load the bases. Stephanie Elsie drew a bases-loaded walk. Jessie Hill followed with a base-clearing hit, then Carmen Woods drove Hill home. In the top of the 5th, Tabby Killen hit a 2-out double. Jessie Hill was hit by a pitch, and Carmen Woods singled. With 2 outs and the bases loaded, Christina Scudder drove a ball deep to left center for a bases-clearing triple. Brashear held on to pick up the win 8-3. Jessie Hill had a single and 3 RBIs. Carmen Woods had a single and an RBI. Abby McKim and Emily Lodwig singled. Tabby Killen doubled. Stephanie Elsie had an RBI, and Christina Scudder had a single and a triple and 3 RBIs. Scudder was the winning pitcher, fanning 10. In the baseball game, Tiger pitcher Jacob Shipman was on a roll. He retired the first 11 Novinger batters of the game in order, striking out 10 of them. Then, with 2 out in the fourth, 3 consecutive walks and an error broke up his shutout as 2 Novinger runs crossed the plate. Shipman struck out the next batter to end the inning, and then got back in his groove and struck out all 3 batters in the 5th. Meanwhile, Novinger's Jake Hughes had managed to hold the Tigers scoreless through the first 3 frames. Things changed dramatically in the bottom of the 4th as the Tigers went to work to make up for the 2 Novinger runs, scoring 9 of their own. Highlights included a 2-run blast by Cale Watson and a 2-out bases-loaded double by Shipman, which drove in 3 runs. The Tigers ended the game early with 4 more runs in the 5th, capped off by a 2-run game-ending homer by Shipman. The final score was 13-2. Shipman had 3 hits and 5 RBIs, Ryan Ferdig had a pair of hits, and Matt Thomas, Justin Hazen, Kylie Watson, Cody Hayden, and Cale Watson each had hits. Matt Thomas swiped 3 bases, bringing his season total to 10.
Last Monday night, Adair County R2 hosted its annual open house. All faculty and staff members were introduced to the crowd, and classrooms were open for parents to visit. Along with the open house, students who earned advanced or proficient ratings on last spring's MAP test were honored. The night was capped off with a book fair where students and parents could purchase a wide variety of reading books. Girl Scout representatives were also on hand to sign up new prospective members.
The Brashear FBLA Club went on a field trip on Wednesday, September 12, 2007. The FBLA kids boarded the buses and went to Northwest Missouri State University at Maryville. The trip consisted of the students got a campus tour and met with the mission counselors who told them the advantages of attending Northwest. In addition, the students got to see Old Brashear graduates.
Last Friday, some of the juniors and seniors enrolled in many dual credit classes for Moberly Area Community College. This program allows students to gain college credits as well as still gaining high school credits. This program has been going on for the past 13 years.
Brashear visited Canton for a softball doubleheader Thursday, and the 2 Lady Tiger teams split on the night. In the varsity contest, Canton took advantage of a couple of walks and an error to score 2 runs in the bottom of the 1st. Brashear got one of the runs back in the top of the 4th when Haley Kelsey singled with 2 outs and Christina Scudder drove her in. The score remained 2-1 Canton until the top of the 6th. Carmen Woods and Jessie Hill both reached on 1-out errors. Christina Scudder drew an intentional walk, then Abby McKim drove a hard grounder just inside the first base bag for a bases-clearing triple. Canton came back to tie the game 4-4 in the bottom half of the frame, then went on to win 5-4 in the 8th inning on a bases-loaded walk. Carmen Woods, Haley Kelsey, Christina Scudder, and Abby McKim all had hits for Brashear. McKim had 3 RBIs and Scudder had 1 RBI. Scudder pitched and took the loss for Brashear. In the 3-inning JV game, Brashear jumped out early and picked up a 6-0 win. Emily Lodwig was the winning pitcher. Last Saturday, the Lady Tiger JV softball team headed to the Schuyler County tournament. The first game of the day was against Scotland County, where Brashear picked up an 11-8 win. Next up in pool play was Clark County. Brashear struggled offensively, putting up only 1 run and losing 5-1. Having gone 1-1 in pool play put the Lady Tigers in the 3rd place game, where they faced Brookfield. Brashear jumped out to an early 9-3 lead, but the game grew exciting as Brookfield stormed back to take the lead 11-9. Brashear never gave up and came from behind for the 14-11 win to take 3rd place in the tournament. Tuesday night, Brashear traveled to Atlanta for a pair of conference wins. In the softball game, Brashear got on the scoreboard in the top of the 1st when leadoff Jessie Hill reached on an error and scored when Christina Scudder walked and headed for second on a rundown sacrifice. Abby McKim added another run when she circled the bases after driving a hard ground ball through the infield and past the right fielder. Atlanta tied the score 2-2 in the bottom of the first when a walk, a double, and an error plated 2 runs. Atlanta took a 3-2 lead in the third, but the Brashear Bats came alive in the sixth for 4 runs and in the seventh for another 3 runs. Atlanta managed a run in the sixth and another in the seventh, but Brashear held on for the 9-5 win. Christina Scudder got the win for Brashear, striking out 17 batters. Abby McKim had 3 hits for Brashear. Sydney Slavin, Haley Kelsey, and Emily Lodwig also had hits. In the baseball game, pitching and defense were the story of the night. Matt Thomas held Atlanta scoreless through 7 innings to earn the 1-0 win. Both teams threatened to score in the third inning, but Ryan Ferdig was thrown out at the plate, and Atlanta lined out to the pitcher with bases loaded to end their half of the inning. Brashear mounted a 2-out rally in the fifth when Matt Thomas drew a walk followed by a Justin Hazen walk. Thomas then stole third and scored when Kylie Watson reached on an error by the third baseman. Brashear's defense held to preserve the 1-run lead, but not without a scare in the seventh when Michael McKim ran down a deep fly ball down the first baseline to record the second out of the inning. Thomas closed it out with a game-ending strikeout. Thomas struck out 6 while scattering 4 hits and 2 walks. He also had 2 stolen bases and scored the winning run. Kylie Watson had a pair of hits and drove in the winning run.
Last Friday, the students had a Renaissance breakfast at the Keller Building in Brashear. The breakfast consisted of juice, milk, and biscuits and gravy. For the first hour, the students ate and talked with each other. The students also received an envelope with various coupons inside for surrounding companies in Kirksville. The Renaissance breakfast is to reward students for their good grades, good attendance, and good behavior.
Monday marked the beginning of practice for the junior high basketball players. Their first game will be October the 9th against Merrimack at home. There are 15 boys and 12 girls going out for basketball this season.
This week, Mr. Scudder's physics class spent some time exploring vectors and vector triangles. Given 3 vectors to be attached to a single point, the students were required to calculate a solution that would allow the 3 vectors to be in equilibrium. Then they tested their theory on a vector force table in order to see if they had done their calculations correctly.
Last Friday, Brashear traveled to Green City for a baseball-softball doubleheader. The Lady Tigers jumped on the board with a pair of runs in the top of the first and proceeded to score in each of the other innings as well in this 13-1 5-inning contest. Haley Kelsey had 3 hits for the Lady Tigers, Emily Lodwig had a pair of hits, Christina Scudder had a single and a triple, and Jessie Hill, Carmen Woods, and Stephanie Elzy each had hits. The Lady Tigers held the Lady Gophers to 1 run, which came in the last inning on a series of throwing errors. Christina Scudder picked up the win, scattering 3 hits and striking out 8. The Tigers got off to a quick start in the baseball game also, scoring 1 run in the first and 3 in the second on their way to a 9-2 win. Green City got on the board with a pair of runs in the sixth. Matt Thomas and Jacob Shipman both had a pair of hits for Brashear, and Justin Hazen, Kylie Watson, Cody Hayden, and Kale Watson also had hits. Jacob Shipman went 5 innings, giving up 2 hits and striking out 6. Kale Watson came in for 2 innings of relief, surrendering 2 hits and striking out 6.
There you go. Nice job.
Monday night's game between the Brashear Lady Tigers and the Marion County Lady Mustangs was a quick one as 7-inning contests go. Both pitchers and defenses held until the top of the fourth when Abby McKim drew a leadoff walk for Brashear. Christina Scudder moved her to second with a grounder to the second baseman, and McKim took third on a wild pitch to Haley Kelsey. Kelsey then drew a walk and rounded first, drawing a throw that allowed McKim to scramble home. Sydney Slavin then drew a walk, and Stephanie Elzy singled, driving in Kelsey. Brashear scored again in the sixth when Emily Lodwig and Stephanie Elzy drew 1-out walks, followed by an RBI single by Tabitha Killen to put Brashear up 3-0. Marion County tried to rally in the bottom of the 7th when a one-out slow roller followed by an error put a pair of runners on base. The rally was cut short when the next two Mustang batters struck out to end the game. Christina Scudder picked up the 3-0 win, allowing only one hit and a pair of walks while striking out 11. Tuesday night, Brashear hosted Buckland for a pair of conference games. In the softball game, Brashear got off to a slow start offensively, but started to make some noise in the second when Sidney Slavin ripped a 2-out triple to left field, only to be stranded there. Things looked better in the third when Tabitha Killen drew a 1-out walk. Carmen Woods bunted for a hit, then Jessie Hill singled, driving in Killen. Abby McKim grounded out, driving in Woods, and Christina Scudder followed with an RBI single, driving in Hill to give Brashear a 3-0 lead. Brashear added 3 more in the fourth and 4 more runs in the fifth. Carmen Woods, Jessie Hill, and Tabitha Killen each had a pair of hits, Sidney Slavin had a triple, and Christina Scudder singled. Meanwhile, Scudder went to work on the mound, retiring the first 9 batters in order. After surrendering a leadoff walk in the top of the fourth, Scudder retired the remaining 6 batters in order, picking up the win while fanning 12. In the baseball game, the Tigers got a bit of a scare in the top of the first as Buckland scored twice on an error and a home run. Brashear came roaring back in the bottom of the first, plating 9 runs of their own after Matt Thomas led off with a triple. Consecutive 2-out walks to Jacob Shipman, Cody Hayden, Michael McKim, Cale Watson, and Cody Snelling put the Tigers in business. Ryan Ferdig reached on an error, Matt Thomas was hit by a pitch, Justin Hazen also reached on an error, and then Kylie Watson cleared the bases with a double. Brashear kept up the scoring in the second when Michael McKim ripped a solo homer. Justin Hazen added another home run in the 3-run fifth, and Brashear picked up another pair of runs in the sixth to end the game early by a score of 15-5. Kylie Watson had a pair of hits, and Matt Thomas, Justin Hazen, Cody Hayden, Michael McKim, Cody Snelling, Ryan Ferdig, and Brandon Gordon all had hits. McKim and Hazen both homered. Matt Thomas got the start for the Tigers, going 4 innings with 5 strikeouts and 4 hits. Michael McKim pitched 2 innings of relief, striking out 3 and giving up 1 hit.
Wednesday afternoon was time to test our safety procedures here at BHS. As the bells started ringing a tornado alarm, students filed from their classrooms and took cover. This drill went off successfully, as did the fire drill a couple of weeks ago. This week, many of the students around school have been very busy with testing. The grades 6 through 11 have been participating in the SAT 9 test, and grades 2 and 7 have been taking the OLSAT test. This is part of our fall testing schedule, in addition to MAP testing in the spring. In a related item, BHS students boarded buses and headed to Kirksville for a movie Friday morning as a reward for their successful MAP testing last spring. The Lady Tigers headed for Bevier Friday evening with a 6-0 conference record, while Bevier had 1 conference loss to La Plata this season. With a conference title on the line, it looked to be a hard-fought battle. Recent history would back up that theory, as Brashear and Bevier had gone 10 innings last year, with Bevier getting the win, and Bevier beat Brashear by a single run 1-0 2 years before that. It quickly became obvious that this would be another defensive battle as the innings and strikeouts began to pile up. Bevier got a runner on base in the second inning, and Sacrifice bunted her to second base. The runner reached third on a passed ball, but then Brashear slammed the door with a pair of strikeouts. Bevier also got runners to third in the 6th, 7th, and 9th innings, but again Brashear's defense held. Brashear missed a golden opportunity in the top of the 9th when Jessie Hill reached second to lead off the inning after the Bevier left fielder and shortstop had a hard collision going for a fly ball. Abby McKim then reached first on an error, but both Hill and McKim were put out as Hill tried to come home as McKim turned for second. Christina Scudder opened up the top of the 10th with a leadoff double and was moved to third by a sacrifice bunt. A pair of strikeouts left her stranded there. Brashear's Hill was erased again in the 11th as she tried to score from second on a 2-out ground ball that made it through the infield. Bevere finally snapped Brashear's defense in the bottom of the 13th when leadoff batter Caitlin Toll reached on an error, then stole second. A passed ball moved her to third, where she scored on a bloop hit over the first baseman. During this game, the two pitchers rang up a combined 48 strikeouts, 29 for Bevere's Caitlin Toll and 19 for Brashear's Christina Scudder, while neither pitcher allowed a walk. The baseball game was a little less eventful, with Brashear picking up a 6-1 win. Brashear jumped out to a 2-0 lead when Matt Thomas and Kylie Watson scored in the top of the first. Thomas, Watson, and Justin Hazen all scored in the third, and Cale Watson scored in the fourth. Bevere picked up their lone run in the sixth. Kylie Watson and Jacob Shipman each drove in a pair of runs on the night, with Shipman picking up the win on the mound. Shipman struck out 11 in 5 innings of work, and Cale Watson came on for 2 innings of relief work, striking out 4 batters. Brashear is now 7-0 in the Tri-County Conference. Saturday morning, Lady Tigers headed to Schuyler County for a varsity softball tournament. The last thing Brashear needed was more innings under their belt after playing a 13-inning marathon Friday night at Bevere, but more innings was what they got. In the first game of the morning, Brashear battled Knox County to a 0-0 tie through 7 innings, then lost 1-0 on an unusual play at the plate in the 8th. Using international tiebreaker rules, Knox began the 8th with a runner at second. A single moved the runner to third, then a sacrifice fly to right field had the runner tagging up from third and scrambling for home. The throw from right and the runner arrived like a 1-2 punch as Abby McKim barely had time to catch the ball before being steamrolled by the runner. McKim held on to the ball, but the run was allowed to score as it was ruled that the runner was being blocked by the catcher. That was the only run of the 8-inning contest, giving Knox County the first round win. Christina Scudder took the loss on the mound, striking out 14 and giving up 2 hits. Next up for Brashear was Atlanta, who had also fallen into the consolation bracket with a loss to the host Schuyler County Lady Rams. Brashear got a little early offense when Christina Scudder drew a leadoff walk and Abby McKim singled in the first to make the game 1-0. Brashear added 5 more runs in the second, 2 in the fourth, and 3 more in the fifth to finish the game early. Atlanta's lone run in the 11-1 loss came in the fourth. Christina Scudder, Haley Kelsey, Abby McKim, Emily Lodwig, Sydney Slavin, Shelby Rogers, and Jessie Hill all had hits for the Lady Tigers. Scudder picked up the win, striking out 8 in 4 innings of work. Emily Lodwig came on in relief in the 5th, picking up a strikeout. In the consolation game, Brashear faced conference rival Novinger, who had just defeated Milan. Brashear got off to a fast start as Christina Scudder tripled, Haley Kelsey singled, and Carmen Woods doubled to score 2 runs. Woods then came home on a passed ball to put Brashear up 3-0. The Lady Tigers did more damage in the 4th when Shelby Rogers and Jessie Hill hit back-to-back 2-out singles. Scudder followed with a 2 RBI triple, then Kelsey topped that with a home run. Brashear added 3 more runs in the 7th on their way to the 10-3 win. Scudder picked up the win for Brashear, fanning 9. This completed 33 innings of play for the Lady Tigers, starting with the 13-inning marathon at Bevere on Friday night, combined with 20 innings of tournament play Saturday. A well-deserved rest was definitely in order.
Last Wednesday night was senior night for BHS baseball and softball players. Before the start of the night's games, 3 softball players, Jessie Hill, Haley Kelsey, and Christina Scudder, and 2 baseball players, Jacob Shipman and Cale Watson, were honored. After being introduced to the crowd, the seniors were presented with gifts by their teammates.
Wednesday night, the Brashear chapter of FBLA held their first evening meeting. Members of the Truman State University SIFE Club, students in free enterprise, were on hand to conduct a game of Jeopardy with topics related to business and finance. The FBLA students also constructed and raced solar cars in the gym. Many of the teams went to great lengths to get the maximum performance for their machines. The evening was then topped off with a pizza party in the cafeteria.
Last Monday night, it looked like it might be another extra inning game with Knox County as both pitchers held their opponents scoreless through 3 innings. Knox finally got on the board in the 4th with a run on a pair of consecutive hits. They also added an insurance run in the 7th on a hit and an error. Brashear looked like they would make some noise in the 6th when Jesse Hill led off with a single and Christina Scudder drew a walk. With runners at first and second and no outs, Haley Kelsey bunted, and Knox managed to force Hill at third. Abby McKim followed with a grounder between first and second that skipped up, hitting Kelsey for the second out. Carmen Woods then lined a ball back to the pitcher, and Brashear's best scoring chance was over. Abby McKim and Jesse Hill had hits, and Christina Scudder drew a pair of walks. Scudder took the loss, striking out 11 and giving up 3 hits. Last Wednesday night, Brashear faced La Plata for a pair of conference games. In the softball game, things started off well enough for Brashear as they retired the Lady Bulldogs in order in top of the first. Things started to go wrong after that in the bottom of the first when Christina Scudder ripped a 1-out triple only to be stranded at third. Things went seriously wrong in the top of the second when La Plata's leadoff batter reached on an error. Another error and a couple more hits had La Plata holding a 3-0 lead. More Brashear errors and some timely hits allowed La Plata to add runs in the 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 7th innings for a final tally of 8 runs. Brashear got on the scoreboard in the 3rd after Abby McKim and Tabitha Killen both singled. Brashear's other run came in the 6th when Haley Kelsey drew a leadoff walk followed by a Christina Scudder line drive to left and a Carmen Woods single to center. This gave Brashear its second and final run in the 8-2 loss. Christina Scudder, Abby McKim, Carmen Woods, and Tabitha Killen had hits for Brashear. Scudder pitched and took the loss. The baseball contest had a lot riding on the line as both teams were undefeated in Tri-County Conference play. Brashear scored a run in the 3rd, but La Plata answered in the 4th to tie the game. The Bulldogs then added single runs in the 5th, 6th, and 7th to go up 4-1. Things weren't quite over yet as Tigers shortstop Cale Watson drew a walk and right fielder Daniel Smith brought them both in to score with a home run in the 7th. Brashear couldn't sustain the rally and fell 4-3 to the Bulldogs. Matt Thomas pitched, picking up 7 strikeouts in the 7-inning loss. He helped himself at the plate as well, going 2 for 3 on the night. Ryan Ferdig also had a hit. This game closed out the fall baseball season for the Tigers, who finished with a record of 7-1. Green City came to Brashear last Thursday night for a varsity JV softball doubleheader. It was a special night for Brashear seniors Jesse Hill, Haley Kelsey, and Christina Scudder. This was their final game on their home field. Hill made some fine defensive plays and got to try her hand at catching in the JV game. Kelsey went 3 for 3 in the varsity game and got a chance to pitch an inning of relief in the JV game. Scudder also went 3 for 3 in the varsity game while fanning 9 in the 5-inning contest and getting to play first base in the JV game. In the varsity game, Brashear jumped out to an early lead in the bottom of the first when Kelsey, Scudder, Abby McKim, and Emily Lodwig all singled, plating 3 runs. The scoring picked up again in the 3rd, with Brashear scoring 6 more runs. With the score standing at 10-1 in the bottom of the 5th, Kelsey led off with a hit, and Scudder drove her in to end the game by the 10-run rule. Kelsey, Scudder, Abby McKim, Emily Lodwig, and Shelby Rogers all had hits for Brashear. Haley Kelsey ended the JV game 6-5 with a hit after Abby McKim drew a leadoff walk in the bottom of the 3rd. Emily Lodwig pitched the first 2 innings, and then Kelsey took the mound, teaming up with catcher Jesse Hill for old time's sake. Kelsey pitched the final inning in relief, striking out 1. Hill, Alexis Harrelson, Stephanie Linhart, Stephanie Elsey, and Haley Kelsey all had hits, and Christina Scudder finally got her chance to lay down a sacrifice bunt. Brashear finished their regular season 10-6 with a 6-2 record in conference. The Lady Tigers will face Knox County this afternoon in the first round of district play.
Last Thursday afternoon, the KTVO crew came and interviewed Brashear's first Scholar of the Week, Christina Scudder. During the interview, the KTVO crew asked Christina about sports and her schoolwork.
Last Saturday, the band traveled to Canton to march in the Culver Stockton Band Day Parade. Then, later on that week, they made another road trip to Hannibal for the Mark Twain Marching Festival, where they took 4th place overall.
Brashear faced Knox County in the first round of district softball Thursday, with Brashear and Knox having already played 2 close games this season. Knox County had taken the first game 1-0 in extra innings at the Schuyler County tournament, and then beat the Lady Tigers 2-0 a few days later. This game looked to be another low-scoring close game, as both teams went down in order in the first and second innings. Things got a little more interesting in the third when Knox County's Bish beat out a 1-out slow roller to second. This was followed by a 3-2 count check swing walk by Goodrich. Parrish then lined a first pitch double to left center to put Knox up 2-0. Brashear's pitching and defense got stingy after the third, however, sending Knox batters down in order to the rest of the game except for when the leadoff batter of the fourth reached on an error. Things didn't look good for Brashear being down 2-0, but things began looking better in the bottom of the third when Shelby Rogers drew a leadoff walk, but then was forced at second as Stephanie Elsey reached on fielder's choice. 1 out later, Jessie Hill came to the plate and lined a bomb to right center for a triple which plated Elsey. Brashear got the rest of their offense in the 6th when Haley Kelsey took advantage of a bobbled ground ball to reach first. Christina Scudder followed with a hard ground to the third. The fielder knocked it down, but precious time elapsed, making the throw to second too late to force the speedy Kelsey. As the throw was relayed to first, too late to get Scudder, Kelsey alertly sprinted for third and came home when the first to third throw skipped in the dirt. With the game now tied, Abby McKim ripped a line drive to right center for a double, scoring Scudder from second to give the Lady Tigers a 3-2 lead. Knox went 1-2-3 in the top of the 7th, and Brashear advanced to the semifinals of District 9. Stephanie Elsey had a single for Brashear, Abby McKim doubled, and Jessie Hill had a triple. Scudder picked up the win, giving up 2 hits and striking out 13. The Brashear Lady Tigers faced Cairo Friday for the semifinals of districts, but the number 1 seed proved to be too much for Brashear as the Lady Tigers fell 5-0 to the eventual district champs. The Lady Tiger defense held until the third when an error gave Cairo a run, which proved to be all the offense they would need. Despite some good defensive plays, including a double play on a fly ball to Carmen Woods in center, Cairo tacked on 3 more runs in the 5th and another in the 6th on their way to the win. Christina Scudder took the loss on the mound, striking out 5. This loss ended the Lady Tigers' 2007 season with a record of 13-8.
The Brashear Junior High basketball teams took a pair of overtime thrillers Tuesday night against the Mary Immaculate to kick off their 2007 season. In the girls' contest, it was evident from early on that it would be a close game with the score knotted 4-4 after first quarter. The Mary Immaculate Lady Hawks found the range in the second quarter and went into the locker room with a 12-7 lead. Brashear still trailed 18-15 after 3 periods, but scored 13 points in the fourth quarter to tie the game 28-all to force an overtime. It was all Lady Tigers in the overtime as they pulled away for the 33-28 win. For Brashear, Kristen Love had 10 points, Shelby Salter had scored 9, Shandy March added 5, Macy Rogers had 4, Katie Smith had 3, and Abigail Wheeler scored 2 points. The boys' game was also a nail-biter as the teams were tied 4-4 after first quarter. and Brashear held a slim lead 10-8 at halftime. The Tigers managed to extend their lead to 18-13 after 3 periods, but the Hawks battled back to tie the score, forcing the second overtime game of the evening. In the overtime period, Brashear scored first with a Hayden Hausman free throw, then lost the lead when Mary Immaculate's Quinn Benson answered with a bucket. With the clock running out, Brashear took the lead for good on a bucket by Hausman to seal the win, 25-24. For the Tigers, Joe Clarkson had 12 points, Hayden Hausman had scored 5, Joseph Woods had 4, and Nick Thomas and Taryn Treasurer each added 2.
And now we'll leave you with the BHS Marching Tigers at the Culver Stockton Homecoming Parade. Recently, Dr. Rurick's chemistry class has been keeping busy in the lab. In this lab, the class was trying to experimentally determine the charge per electron, as done in the famous Millikan's oil drop experiment. However, in this lab, the students used some different techniques involving electric current flow through zinc electrodes in order to do their calculation. Thursday night marked the start of the 22nd annual Green City Junior High basketball tournament, and the Brashear Lady Tigers came ready to play. Things started off slowly with both teams applying a lot of defensive pressure and Brashear holding a 6-4 lead after one quarter. The Lady Tigers broke the game open in the second quarter, taking a 23-8 lead into halftime. Brashear led 31-14 after 3 quarters before Green City closed the gap a little in the fourth. Brashear picked up the win by a final score of 38-24. Macy Rogers had 15, Shelby Rogers had 14, Shelby Salter added 5 points, and Katie Smith and Sydney Slavin had 2 points each. The Brashear boys didn't fare as well against Green City, who jumped out to an 18-0 lead after one period and a 22-3 lead at halftime. The Tigers finally got a few things sorted out after the half, scoring the first 6 points of the third quarter. However, Green City still maintained a 33-16 lead after 3 quarters. Green City found the range again in the fourth quarter, downing Brashear by a score of 48-18. Cody Snelling had 5 points, Adam Songer and Taryn Treasure added 4 each, Nick Thomas had 3, and Jay Scudder scored 2 points. Friday night was the final rounds of the Green City Junior High basketball tournament. In the boys' third place game, Brashear played Novinger. Brashear jumped out to a 5-1 lead after the first quarter and led 11-8 at halftime. Novinger came storming back in the second half, scoring 16 points in the third frame to lead 24-17 on their way to a 33-23 win. For Brashear, Cody Snelling had 11 points, Nick Thomas and Taryn Treasure had 4 each, and Hayden Hausman and Matt McLeod each scored 2 points. The junior high girls faced Novinger in the title game. Novinger jumped out to a 13-4 first quarter lead and held a 17-11 lead at halftime. Brashear then used a 16-point third quarter to take the lead 27-23 and held off Novinger in the fourth to get the win 36-29. Brashear was paced by Shelby Rogers with 15 points, Macy Rogers had 10, Kristen Love and Sydney Slavin had 4 points each, Shelby Salter had 2, and Shandy March had 1 point. Brashear visited Atlanta Monday night for A and B junior high basketball action. To start the evening, the boys' B teams started with a two-quarter game. Brashear led 6-4 after the first quarter and won the game 12-6. For Brashear, Joseph Woods had 8, and Zach Reeves and Jay Scudder had 2 points each. The girls' game was all Brashear, with the Lady Tigers leading at the quarter breaks by scores of 15-2, 31-4, 41-6, and finishing at 43-10. Macy Rogers led Brashear with 12, Sydney Slavin had 10, Shelby Rogers scored 7, Katie Smith and Shelby Salter had 4 each, and Miranda Creason, Kristen Love, and Abigail Wheeler had 2 points each. In the boys' A game, Atlanta jumped out to a 10-0 lead in the first and went into halftime leading 19-6. The Hornets extended their lead to 31-8 after 3 periods and took the game by a score of 42-10. Cody Snelling had 6 points for Brashear, and Hayden Hausman and Matt McLeod had 2 points each. On Tuesday night, Brashear was on the road again at La Plata. The girls' B squads kicked off the evening's action with a two-quarter contest. Brashear held a 5-4 lead after 1 quarter, but La Plata came back to get the win by a score of 8-6. For Brashear, Shelby Salter had 3, Shandy March had 2, and Katie Smith scored 1 point. In the two-quarter boys' B game, La Plata led 4-3 after the first quarter, but Brashear came back to get the win 13-8. Brashear was led by Austin Alexander with 4 points, Jay Scudder had 3 points, and Nick Bradshaw, Hayden Hausman, and Dylan Redding had 2 points each. Brashear led the whole way in the girls' A game, going up 16-8 after 1 quarter, 27-16 at half, 35-24 after 3 quarters, and picking up the win 45-31. Shelby Rogers scored 17 for Brashear, Sydney Slavin had 8, Macy Rogers and Shelby Salter had 6 points each, and Katie Smith, Shandy March, Kristen Love, and Abigail Wheeler each scored 2 points. The boys' A game proved to be no contest. After Brashear scored the first 2 points of the game on the tip-off, La Plata reeled off 28 unanswered points, going up 26-2 at the end of the first quarter and 41-5 at halftime. Brashear had their best offensive quarter in the third, but still trailed 50-11 and lost the game by a score of 56-15. Adam Songer had 5 points, and Dylan Redding, Hayden Hausman, Matt McLeod, Nick Thomas, and Joe Clarkson had 2 points each.
Congratulations to all the Brashear baseball and softball players that were recently named to the Tri-County Conference All-Conference teams. Christina Scudder, Abby McKim, Matt Thomas, and Jacob Shipman were named to the first team. Second team picks included Haley Kelsey, Kylie Watson, and Cody Hayden, while Jesse Hill, Kale Watson, and Justin Hazen all made honorable mention. Christina Scudder, Haley Kelsey, and Abby McKim were also named to the All-District team, and Christina Scudder was also named to the All-Region team.
This week happened to be Red Ribbon Week at BHS. Red Ribbon Week is to raise awareness of drug abuse and problems, plus to encourage kids and teenagers to be drug-free. This week includes a variety of different activities, including the kickoff of miniature golf and dressing up in a funny fashion to support the week.
Last weekend, the Tri-County Conference Choir met to have auditions and rehearsals to prepare for their fall tour. The tour began with performances at Bevere and Atlanta on Monday morning and ended with a concert at Brashear on Monday afternoon. Brashear choir members Katie Stewart and Stephanie Linhart were members of this select group composed of singers from all 9 conference schools. Last Saturday, the BHS Tiger Marching Band performed at the Mizzou Homecoming Parade. This marked their third parade appearance of the season. They will end their marching season next weekend at the Truman State University Homecoming Parade.
Last Friday, 9 Math and Science Club members took a field trip to the University of Missouri Research Reactor. Once there, the club took a tour, allowing the members to see radioactive glow and how the reactor works firsthand. After that, they checked out many of Mizzou's science buildings.
Last Thursday, the junior high basketball teams faced Green City. The evening started with a pair of two-quarter-long contests between the B squads. In the girls' game, Green City put up 6 first-quarter points while holding Brashear scoreless. Things were exactly the opposite during the second quarter, as Brashear outscored Green City 6-0, leaving the game as a 6-6 tie. For Brashear, Katie Smith had 4 and Kristen Love scored 2 points. In the boys' B game, Brashear outscored Green City 8-6 during the first quarter on their way to a 12-8 win. Joseph Woods had 8 for Brashear, with Dylan Redding adding 4 points. In the girls' A game, Brashear jumped out to an 8-4 lead after one quarter, then held Green City scoreless in the second, giving them a 20-4 halftime lead. Brashear extended the lead to 33-10 after 3 quarters and picked up the win by a score of 39-13. Shelby Rogers had 12, Macy Rogers had 8, Katie Smith and Kristen Love scored 6 points each, Shelby Salter had 5, and Abigail Wheeler had 2 points. The Green City boys A team jumped out to an 11-6 lead after 1 and led 19-10 at halftime. Brashear was down 28-19 after 3 quarters but could pull no closer, falling to the Gophers 38-23. Nick Thomas led Brashear with 8 points, Taryn Treasure had 6, Hayden Hausman had 4, Adam Songer and Cody Snelling had 2 each, and Joe Clarkson scored 1 point. The girls' basketball game Tuesday at Bevier might have been the deciding factor in the Tri-County Conference title race. Both teams were undefeated in conference play. Brashear got on the board first, but Bevier came back to take a 10-5 lead after the first period of play. Although the Lady Tigers tied the game 10-10 early in the second, they had to play catch-up most of the rest of the first half, with Bevier taking a 25-20 lead into halftime. Things really looked bad for Brashear as the Lady Wildcats had the hot hand early in the third. Bevier took a 34-23 lead before Brashear finally got on track and battled back to finish the third quarter with a 38-37 lead, their first lead since they were up 3-0 in the first quarter. The fourth quarter was nip and tuck with the game tied 46-46 with under a minute left. Brashear had the possession with 15 seconds left, but a missed shot and a rebounding foul gave Bevier the ball. With less than 5 seconds on the clock, Bevier sunk a shot to get the 48-46 win. Macy Rogers had 17, Katie Smith had 7, Shelby Rogers scored 5 points, Kristen Love, Abigail Wheeler, Shelby Salter, and Sydney Slavin had 4 points each, and Shandy March had 1 point. The boys' game got off to a slow start with both teams being plagued by turnovers and cold shooting. Brashear finally took a 1-0 lead midway through the first quarter. Bevier finally got on the board with a pair of charity shots of their own. The first period of play ended tied 3-3 with all points coming on free throws except for a single bucket by Brashear. The Tiger offense started to click during the second period as Brashear surged ahead 13-3, taking a 13-5 lead into the locker room. During the third quarter, both teams continued to struggle offensively, but Brashear managed to maintain a 17-9 lead. Things heated up in the fourth quarter as Bevier reeled off 3 consecutive baskets to pull within 21-18, but Brashear held on to pick up their first win of the season 25-19. Adam Songer had 10 points, Nick Thomas and Joe Clarkson had 4 each, Cody Snelling had 3, and Dylan Redding and Taryn Treasure scored 2 points each.
Last Friday was the band's last performance at the Truman State University Homecoming Parade. This followed many other performances such as Culver Stockton Band Day, Hannibal Band Day, and the Mizzou Homecoming.
Congratulations to Christina Scudder on being selected to play at the Missouri Softball Senior Showcase last Saturday at Columbia College. Each year, The Missouri High School Fast Pitch Coaches Association invites senior all-region players from across the state to play in these games.
The public speaking class is doing a variety of different speeches, such as demonstrative, narrative, informative, and others. Recently, they have done their demonstrative speeches on how to perform different activities, such as how to pitch a softball, how to draw, and how to do CPR. Wednesday was Halloween. The elementary, as usual, celebrated by their costume parade, where many of students got to display their costumes for the school. A few special guests from the staff and high school also joined in on the parade fun.
The Lady Tigers picked up another conference win Friday against Buckland. Brashear led 7-3 after the first quarter, 17-7 at the half, 17-11 after 3 quarters, and picked up the win 33-23. Scorers for Brashear included Macy Rogers with 12, Shelby Rogers with 12 also, Abigail Wheeler with 4, Sydney Slavin with 3, and Shelby Salter with 2. In the boys' game, the Tigers fell behind early, trailing 8-15 after the first quarter. Brashear stayed within 9, 17-26 at halftime. Buckland managed to create a little extra breathing room after the half, leading 41-27 after 3 quarters, and went on to defeat the Tigers 52-31. Scorers for Brashear were Taryn Treasure with 8 points, Adam Songer with 8 points also, Hayden Hasman with 5, Matt McLeod with 4, Joe Clarkson with 4, and Nick Thomas with 2. Brashear faced Macon County for a pair of junior high basketball games Monday night. In the girls' game, Brashear jumped out to an 8-2 lead after 1 and led 21-9 at halftime. During the second half, Macon County started to chip away at the Lady Tiger lead, pulling within 29-20 after 3 quarters of play. Things became critical for the Lady Tigers when they fouled Macon County's Abby Lusher on a 3-point attempt, sending her to the line with 7 seconds left. Lusher hit 2 of the 3 free throws, pulling Macon County within 1 point, but Brashear was able to hang on for the 34-33 win. Scorers for Brashear included Sydney Slavin with 11 points, Shelby Rogers with 10, Macy Rogers with 6, Kristen Love with 4, and Katie Smith with 3. In the boys' game, the Tigers fell behind early, trailing 6-11 after 1 quarter and 12-19 at halftime. The end of the third quarter still had Brashear trailing 18-27, but the Tigers decided to try their own version of a comeback, pulling within 3 points within 15 seconds left in the game. That was as close as they could get, however, and they took the loss to Macon County by a score of 33-38. Scorers for Brashear were Adam Songer with 11 points, Joe Clarkson with 8, Cody Snelling with 8, Nick Thomas with 4, and Matt McLeod with 2. Tuesday night, Brashear traveled to Novinger for a full night of basketball with both boys and girls B quarters in addition to the regular games. In the girls B game, Brashear led 6-3 after the first quarter and picked up the win 11-3. Scorers for Brashear were Katie Smith with 4 points, Wendy Clarkson with 2 points, Shandy March with 2, Shelby Salter with 2, and Miranda Creason with 1. In the girls' A game, Brashear held a first quarter lead of 9-4 and led at halftime 22-9. The Lady Tiger lead after 3 quarters was 33-16, but a scrappy Novinger squad outscored Brashear 14-8 in the last quarter, falling to the Lady Tigers by a final score of 41-30. Scorers for Brashear were Shelby Rogers with 11 points, Katie Smith with 10 points, Sydney Slavin also had 10, Abigail Wheeler with 4, Macy Rogers with 3, Kristen Love with 2, and Shelby Salter with 1 point. The Brashear B boys got their running game going early, jumping out to a 12-2 lead after 1 quarter and picking up the 16-5 win. The B boys are now 5-0 on the season. Scorers for Brashear included Matt McLeod with 8 points, Joseph Woods with 4 points, Zach Reeves with 2, and Jay Scudder with 2. The Brashear boys A team took an 8-5 lead after the first period of play, but the teams fought a seesaw battle with Brashear, taking a 15-12 lead into halftime. The game remained close throughout the third quarter, with Brashear holding a 22-21 lead. Novinger scored 10 points in the final frame while holding Brashear to 4 free throws on 11 attempts to to get the win 31-26. Scorers for Brashear included Taryn Treasure with 10 points, Matt McLeod with 5 points, Adam Songer with 3, Cody Snelling also had 3, Joe Clarkson with 2, Dylan Redding with 2, and Nick Thomas with 1 point.
Last week, the 5th grade class was doing a unit on gravity. They were doing an experiment to see if they could drop an egg without it breaking. They tried various different ways to stop their eggs from breaking.
Lynn County visited Brashear Thursday night for a pair of junior high basketball games. The Lady Mustangs stayed within a bucket against Brashear in the first quarter, but the Lady Tigers outscored them 8-4 in the second quarter to lead 14-8 at halftime. Brashear had a big second half, taking a 24-10 lead after 3 quarters and winning by a margin of 36-15. Shelby Rogers led Brashear's scoring with 16 points. Kristen Love and Sydney Slavin had 6 points each, and Katie Smith and Macy Rogers had 4 points each. In the boys' game, the Tigers squad trailed 10-9 after the first quarter, but looked like they had no intentions of giving up even though Lynn County extended their lead to 19-14 at halftime. Brashear came out strong in the third, outscoring Lynn County 13-6, allowing the Tigers to take a slim 27-25 lead. It was anyone's game in the fourth, and the lead changed hands in the last minutes as first Lynn County and then Brashear took 1-point leads on free throws. Brashear managed to go into the final seconds holding a slim 41-39 lead, but a shot at the buzzer tied the game, sending it into overtime. Both teams managed only a single free throw each in the first overtime, calling for a second overtime. Lynn County got a bucket in the second overtime, but Brashear aced them out with 3 free throws to get the 45-44 win. Adam Songer and Cody Snelling scored 11 each for Brashear. Joe Clarkson added 9 points. Taryn Treasure had 6, and Dylan Redding, Hayden Hausman, Joseph Woods, and Nick Thomas had 2 points each. This completes conference games for the Tigers. The Lady Tigers finished 7-1, and the Tigers were 2-6 in conference action. The 7th and 8th grade girls from Brashear and La Plata played a close game Saturday. The score was knotted 2-2 after the first period of play and was also tied 10-10 at halftime. La Plata was able to take a 12-11 lead after 3 quarters and held on for the 17-16 win. For Brashear, Macy Rogers had 8, Katie Smith scored 6, and Shelby Rogers had 2 points. In the boys' contest, Brashear led 9-4 at the end of the first and extended their lead to 21-4 at halftime. The Tigers led 27-8 after 3 quarters and picked up the win by a score of 29-14. Brashear was paced by Joe Clarkson with 10 points, Taryn Treasure had 7, Joseph Woods and Nick Thomas had 5 each, and Andy Belzer scored 2 points. The Brashear and La Plata girls kicked off Tuesday evening's action at the Atlanta tournament, with Brashear taking an early lead. La Plata made a late charge going into halftime, tied 9-9 after trailing 9-5. La Plata kept the momentum after the half, going up 17-10 and finishing the third quarter with a 21-16 lead. Despite La Plata's attempt to slow the game down, Brashear managed to chip away at the La Plata lead and pulled ahead 23-22 on a pair of free throws with 1 minute and 9 seconds left in the game. Brashear got another pair of free throws with less than a second left on the clock to seal the win 25-22. For Brashear, Selby Salter had 9 points, Macy Rogers scored 8, Shelby Rogers had 5, and Sydney Slavin had 3 points. In the second game of the night, the Brashear boys faced Green City. Green City and Brashear both came out pressing hard, and Green City went out to an 8-2 lead before Brashear cracked the press 3 times for fast break buckets to even the score 8-8. The first quarter ended with the score tied 10-10. Green City went on a run in the second quarter, going up 20-14 at the midway point and taking a 23-16 lead into halftime. Brashear mounted a comeback in the second half, pulling within 33-30 after 3 quarters and tying the game 33-33 with 5 minutes 30 seconds left in the fourth. From that point on, Green City held Brashear scoreless until a pair of Brashear free throws with 1 minute 38 seconds left pulled the Tigers within 9 at 44-35. Green City went on to win by a final margin of 52-43. For Brashear, Adam Songer had 20 points, Cody Snelling scored 8, Taryn Treasure and Hayden Hausman each scored 4. Nick Thomas had 3 points, and Joseph Woods and Joe Clarkson each had 2 points.
The students of Brashear School started off their week with the remembrance of the veterans who have served our country. With Mr. McHenry taking the lead, the students used their morning pre-class time to do a group recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. The week of November 12th through 16th is Reading Week at Brashear School. The elementary kicked off the celebration with an evening in education. The evening started off with a picnic dinner, followed by lots of fun activities to help students get excited about reading. This year's Reading Week theme is racing, and the elementary is decorated with racing items. Reading Week was capped off by a visit from members of the Thousand Hills Rotary Club. The Rotarians brought dictionaries for every member of Mrs. Thomas's 3rd grade class. This is part of a larger Rotary project to give dictionaries to every 3rd grade student in Adair County.
Thursday, Drama Club had their first meeting where they discussed their upcoming productions while eating pizza.
Thursday night at the Atlanta tournament, the Lady Tigers faced the Macon County Lady Raiders. The Brashear and Macon County girls had already met earlier this season, with Brashear edging the Lady Raiders 34-33. This game was to be very different as the Lady Tigers scored the first 12 points. Macon County finally got on the board at the 2:33-minute mark of the second quarter, but Brashear took a 16-3 lead into halftime. Macon County made a modest comeback in the fourth quarter, but Brashear still picked up the win by a final score of 24-15. For Brashear, Shelby Rogers had 8 points, Katie Smith and Kristen Love had 6 points each, and Macy Rogers scored 4 points. The Brashear boys came into Thursday's consolation semifinal game against Macon County looking for a little bit of revenge. Macon County had handed the Tigers a 38-33 loss on the Tiger home court back on October 29th. Macon County got on the board first and held a slim 10-8 lead after 1 period of play. The Raiders extended that lead to 15-8 in the first minute of the second quarter, but Brashear mounted a comeback, taking a 16-15 lead at the 2:30-minute mark and leading Macon County 18-17 at the half. Brashear extended their lead to 29-25 during the third quarter and picked up the win by a score of 46-25. Cody Snelling scored 21 for Brashear, Adam Songer had 7, Joe Clarkson scored 6 points, Nick Thomas had 4, and Dylan Redding, Joseph Woods, Zach Reeves, and Jay Scudder each scored 2 points. They say it is hard to beat a team 3 times, and the Brashear boys proved that in their 34-30 win over Novinger in the consolation game of the Atlanta tournament Friday night. The Tigers jumped out to a 21-11 lead at halftime, then held on as Novinger outscored them 9-5 in the third quarter and 10-8 in the fourth quarter. Brashear got 15 points from Cody Snelling in the first half on his way to a 17-point effort. Joe Clarkson added 4 points each half for 8 points. Jay Scudder came off the bench with 4 fourth-quarter points. Hayden Hausman had 3, and Nick Thomas had 2 points. In the girls' title game of the Atlanta tournament on Saturday, Brashear and Novinger stayed close, with Novinger holding a slim 8-7 lead after the first quarter of play. Brashear got buckets from 4 different players in the second to take a 15-10 lead into the locker room. The Lady Tigers continued to outscore Novinger 7-6 in the third quarter to lead 22-16. The fourth quarter turned into a disaster for Brashear as 4 players fouled out, putting Novinger on the free throw line for 8 of their 17 fourth quarter points and giving the Lady Wildcats the 33-29 win. Brashear was led by Macy Rogers with 13 points, Kristen Love had 6, Katie Smith had 5, Abigail Wheeler and Shelby Rogers had 2 points each, and Sydney Slavin had 1 point. Tuesday night, Brashear wrapped up their junior high basketball season with 7th and 8th grade games against Mary Immaculate. When Mary Immaculate came to town early in the season, Brashear got wins in both the girls and boys games, but not before both games went to overtime. In Tuesday's girls game, Brashear took the lead early at 8-11 after the first quarter and 22-17 at halftime. The Lady Tigers then blew the game open in the third, going up 35-19 on their way to a 45-30 win. Macy Rogers led Brashear with 19 points, Kristen Love had 12, Miranda Creason and Shelby Salter added 6 each, and Shandy March scored 2 points. Brashear led the boys' contest 4-3 after the first quarter, but Mary Immaculate made a run in the second, taking a 10-4 lead before Brashear battled back to go into halftime tied 10-10. The Hawks made another scoring run in the third, taking a 21-10 lead. Again, Brashear began to battle back, eventually closing to within 21-18 before the Hawks put the game away, picking up the 34-28 win. For Brashear, Hayden Hausman had 10 points, Nick Thomas had 9, Joe Clarkson scored 5, and Taryn Treasure had 4 points.
Tuesday, Miss Thomas and Miss Kincaid's classes were visited by Marine James Lockbaum. These 2 classes have been periodically sending letters to Mr. Lockbaum letting him know that they are thinking about him and his support for our country. Mr. Lockbaum then came to thank these classes for their support.
This year, Miss Jackson decided to make a contest of biggest buck and biggest doe killed. Students brought in pictures, antlers, and stories of their kills, which are displayed in the Learning Center. Some students even brought in pictures of bucks from previous years. The winners are soon to be announced. Last Tuesday was the first basketball game for varsity girls and boys. To get the teams ready, the cheerleaders held a pep rally. To start it off, the band played, then the cheerleaders and the players were announced. The seniors gave a speech to the crowd to get the crowd going. To finish off the pep rally, there was a dance-off between the seniors.
Last Tuesday, Brashear kicked off the varsity basketball season with a pair of games against Marion County. The Lady Tigers went into the game without point guard Kimberly Elsie, who scored 1,000-plus points in her career at Brashear. Elsie was one of the 3 players Brashear lost to graduation. Starting the season against a team that beat the Lady Tigers 3 times last year even added more tension to the night. Marion County came out pressing hard, but Brashear started to find some holes in the Lady Mustang defense and went up 12-4 by the end of the first quarter. The Lady Tigers put up another 12 points in the second quarter to take a 24-10 lead into the locker room. Marion County made some adjustments after halftime and held Brashear to a single bucket in the third quarter while closing the gap to 26-18. The Lady Tigers lost more ground in the fourth quarter as they were plagued by fouls that gave Marion County 11 of their second half points. Midway through the fourth quarter, Marion County took a 3-point lead, but the Tigers regained and held the lead to pick up the win 37-31. Jessie Hill had 12 points for Brashear, 8 coming in the fourth quarter. Haley Kelsey added 11, and Emily Lodwig and Christina Scudder had 7 points each. In the boys' game, it was close throughout the first quarter with Brashear leading 12-10. Cale Watson had provided a good portion of Brashear's first quarter firepower with a pair of threes along with a 2 and a free throw. Watson added another pair of threes in the second quarter as Brashear outscored the Mustangs 14-5 to take a 26-15 lead into halftime. Brashear came out in the second half determined to put the game away and did so, leading 41-23 after 3 quarters and getting the win 61-35. Brashear had 3 players in double figures, Cale Watson with 23, Trey Treasure with 12, and Jacob Shipman with 11. Matt Thomas had 6, and Justin Hazen, Kylie Watson, Ryan Ferdig, and Jacob Owen each scored 2 points. The Brashear Lady Tigers faced off against Bevier Tuesday in a first-round game of the Novinger Tournament. Both teams struggled against their opponent's defense, with Brashear holding a slim 7-6 lead at the end of one period of play. The Lady Tigers managed to maintain their 1-point lead going into halftime, up 13-12. Bevier managed to get a little more offense going during the third quarter, outscoring Brashear 12-8 to take a 24-21 lead, but Brashear came back in the fourth to outscore Bevier 16-6 to pick up the 37-30 win. Haley Kelsey led Brashear with 14 points, Jessie Hill added 8, Emily Lodwig had 6, Christina Scudder had 5 points and 14 rebounds, and Caroline Slavin scored 4 points. In the boys' first-round game, the Brashear Tigers put up a 7-0 lead on Grundy County, but then the two teams traded buckets for most of the first quarter before Brashear pulled away to a 23-13 lead. The Tigers extended their lead to 38-22 at halftime. Brashear continued to outscore Grundy County to finish the third quarter up 54-31 on their way to a 67-48 win. Brashear had 3 players in double figures. Jacob Shipman had 17, Justin Hazen scored 13, Cale Watson had 10, Trey Treasure added 9, Matt Thomas had 6, Kylie Watson scored 4, and Adam Songer, Anthony Ambrosia, David Anderson, and Ryan Ferdig had 2 points each.
Congratulations to the winners in the 2007 hunting contest. After a lengthy deliberation on Friday afternoon, the judges, Mr. Killen and Mr. Copeland, have awarded Biggest Buck to Brandon Gordon, Biggest Doe to Tony Rain, Biggest Hunting Story to Richard Coy, Best of Show Deer to Ryan Ferding and Hayden Coyne, Longest Beard to Justin Rigdon, and finally Best in Show Turkey to Justin Mihalovich.
Congratulations to Haley Kelsey on being named the ProTech KIRX Athlete of the Week. Haley had 2 double-doubles in the last week and averaged 14.3 points per game in the Novinger tournament.
It looks like winter has really arrived at BHS. Yesterday's snow made driving unsafe with several accidents near the school. Here are some safe driving tips. Don't speed. Use common sense and adjust your speed to the driving conditions. Be careful around snowplows. Give them plenty of room and don't try to pass. Watch for problems ahead so you have plenty of time to react. Be a defensive driver. Keep windows and mirrors clear of ice so you have a good view of the road. Wear your seatbelt. If conditions are too risky, don't drive.
Last Thursday night at the Novinger tournament saw the Brashear Lady Tigers square off against the Scotland County Lady Tigers in the championship semifinal game. Brashear managed to get an early lead, but still only led 8-6 after the first quarter and 14-12 at halftime. Brashear managed to gain some breathing room in the second half as they extended their lead to 29-20 at the end of the third quarter on their way to a 45-31 win. Haley Kelsey led the way for Brashear with a 16-point double-double. Chris Scudder was also in double figures with 12 points. Jessie Hill added 7, Stephanie Elsie came off the bench for 6 fourth-quarter free throw points, and Caroline Slavin scored 4 points. The boys' championship semifinal game also featured the Brashear Tigers and the Scotland County Tigers. Brashear jumped out to an early lead and was up 15-6 after one quarter and 37-18 at halftime. Scotland County managed to outscore Brashear 23-21 in the second half, but it was too little too late. Brashear led 46-28 at the end of the third quarter and picked up the win by a score of 58-41. For Brashear, Matt Thomas and Kylie Watson had 13 points each, Trey Treasure had 10, Cale Watson added 8, Jacob Shipman had 6, Justin Hazen had 4, and Adam Songer and David Anderson scored 2 points each. The Brashear Lady Tigers and the Lynn County Mustangs played Tuesday evening at Lynn County. A quick and aggressive Lynn County gave Brashear fits, and despite Brashear holding a 10-5 first quarter lead, Lynn County pulled ahead 24-18 in the second quarter and led 24-22 at halftime. The Lady Mustangs continued their defensive pressure in the second half, forcing turnovers and converting them into layups, allowing them to go up 39-31 after 3 periods of play. Brashear was never able to close the gap, and Lynn County won 54-43. Both teams had a pair of players in double figures. Brashear's Christina Scudder had a double-double with 14 points and 12 boards. Haley Kelsey had 10 points. Emily Ladwig added 8. Caroline Slavin had 6. Jessie Hill had 4, and Stephanie Elsey scored 1 point. The boys' contest looked like it might be a low-scoring affair, as Brashear held a slim 9-7 lead at the end of the first quarter. Brashear managed to get the offense going a little better in the second quarter, going into halftime leading 24-13. Both teams came out of the locker rooms ready to put up some points in the second half, with Brashear scoring 20 and Lynn County scoring 18 in the third quarter. Lynn County put up another 17 in the fourth quarter, but Brashear put them away with 28 fourth quarter points to win by a margin of 72-48. Brashear's Trey Treasure and Cale Watson were double figures with 19 and 15 points. Matt Thomas, Kylie Watson, Jacob Shipman, and Ryan Fertig scored 8 points each. Justin Hazen added 4, and David Anderson had 2 points. After weather postponed Saturday night's games at the Novinger Tournament, play resumed on Wednesday. The girls' title game featured a pair of underdogs. La Plata had knocked off top-seeded Novinger on their way to the first-place game, and Brashear had defeated second-seeded Scotland County. Brashear took the lead early on and was up 12-6 after one period of play and went into halftime with an 18-14 lead. La Plata closed the gap and only trailed 24-23 at the end of the third quarter, then briefly took the lead midway through the fourth quarter. Brashear helped themselves from the charity stripe with 7 free throw points in the fourth quarter to seal the 39-32 win. Haley Kelsey and Christina Scudder both had double-doubles for Brashear, with Kelsey scoring 13 and Scudder scoring 10. Emily Ladwig had 6, and Jessie Hill and Caroline Slavin each had 5 points. In the boys' first-place game, Brashear was the underdog to a La Plata team that took third in the state last year. La Plata jumped out to an 18-9 lead after the first quarter, but Brashear battled back to tie the score 22-22 at halftime. La Plata ran up a 37-26 lead again in the third quarter, but Brashear battled back in the fourth and trailed by only 6 points with a minute left in the game. Brashear's attempts to foul to get the ball back only allowed La Plata to extend their lead on free throws, and La Plata held on to win 55-42. Justin Hazen led Brashear with 9 points. Jacob Shipman and Cale Watson added 7 each. Matt Thomas and Trey Treasure had 6 points each, and Ryan Fertig had 3 points.
This past week, the NHS members went around Kirksville and rang bells for donations for charities.
This week, due to bad weather, Brashear missed both Tuesday and Wednesday. These days will be made up on January 21st and March 25th. The La Plata game, which was scheduled to play on Tuesday, will be made up on January 7th.
Brashear visited Milan Thursday night for a pair of varsity basketball games. The Lady Tigers got off to a quick start, beginning the game with a 13-0 scoring run and leading 15-2 after one quarter of play. Brashear continued to outscore Milan every quarter, leading 26-8 at the half, 44-17 after 3 quarters, and winning by a margin of 54-22. Haley Kelsey led a trio of Brashear players in double figures with 13 points. Christina Scudder added 11, Caroline Slavin had 10, Emily Lodwig scored 8, Jessie Hill had 6, and Stephanie Elsie, Abigail Wheeler, and Sydney Slavin scored 2 points each. The Tigers started their game with an 8-0 run and jumped out to a 17-6 lead after 1 quarter. Milan battled back in the second quarter, pulling within 24-17 at halftime. Brashear widened their lead to a more comfortable 38-24 margin by the end of the third quarter and picked up the win by a score of 48-36. Jacob Shipman led Brashear scorers with 12 points. Kylie Watson had 9. Ryan Ferdig added 8. Justin Hazen, Kayla Watson, and Trey Treasure had 5 points each, and Matt Thomas scored 4 points.
This past week marked the passing of a Brashear sports legend. Anne-Lou Irwin Ambrosia set the women's all-time scoring record for Brashear High in a game in 1938 when she scored 74 points.
On Tuesday, NHS made its annual trip to Sheridan Valley, first making a stop at the Salvation Army to make a donation of $250, then going to Walmart to buy gifts for the people of Sheridan Valley. Then they went and gave away their gifts along with reading stories to the residents, after which the group enjoyed Pizza Hut.
Tuesday night, the Brashear Music Department held their annual Christmas concert. Groups performing included the kindergarten 1st and 2nd grade chorus, the 3rd grade and 4th grade chorus, the 5th and 6th grade chorus, the elementary honor chorus, and the 6th grade band, the junior high band, and the high school band, as well as soloists Stephanie Lynn Hart and Katie Stewart. The evening ended with an audience sing-along rendition of We Wish You a Merry Christmas.
The Brashear Tigers were playing on the road Monday night at Marion County. In a hard-fought girls game, the Marion County Lady Mustangs came out pressing hard and held the Lady Tigers to a single free throw to go up 7-1 at the end of the first quarter. Marion County extended their lead to 9-2 before the Lady Tigers had a small run to close within 9-8. The Lady Mustangs continued to pile up fouls in their hard-pressing defense, going into halftime with a 19-11 lead, but with 3 starters with either 2 or 3 fouls apiece, while Brashear had only 4 fouls total among their starters. The second half saw Marion County again come out pressing hard, but managing to avoid what looked like inevitable foul trouble as they extended their lead to 27-14 after 3 quarters. The difference was like black and white for Brashear as they were assessed with 16 second half fouls, putting 2 starters on the bench for a large part of the fourth quarter as Marion County held on for the 38-24 win. Haley Kelsey led Brashear scoring with 8 points. Christina Scudder had 6, Caroline Slavin had 5, Stephanie Elsie and Jessie Hill had 2 points each, and Emily Lodwig scored 1 point. Halftime of the boys' game, it was time for the annual Mascot Rumble. As is traditional, the home mascot was the ultimate winner. The boys' contest was also a black and blue affair, but with a different outcome as the Brashear squad overcame a 10-2 first quarter deficit to pull within 15-9 after 1 quarter and to tie the game before halftime, going into halftime trailing only 27-25. The third quarter saw the Tigers outscore Marion County 16-6 to go up 41-33. Brashear extended the lead again in the fourth on their way to a 58-44 win. Justin Hazen led the Brashear scoring with 20 points. Cale Watson was also in double figures with 14 points, Jacob Shipman added 7. Ryan Fertig had 6. Kylie Watson and Trey Treasure each scored 4, and Matt Thomas had 3 points. Brashear will play their final game of 2007 Thursday night when they head to Atlanta for a conference matchup. Play will resume then in January at Schuyler County.